You can't just rob a person for little things like drugs.
18-year-old Dr. Wright, a teenager who was involved in the murder of Jordan Klee, a high school student and athlete in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Wright and two other youths planned to rob Klee of his drugs, clothes, and shoes, but Klee fought back. Wright then shot him in the back of the head, killing him instantly. Just when you thought,
Bro, the world is so big to a point where you can't just rob a person for little things like drugs. Do you have any idea of how big the world is, bruh? There's a lot of things to explore out there. And to be taking drugs or like doing this shit. But then at the end of the day, I'm not judging anyone, bruh, because like things are getting out of our hands sometimes. We cannot control our emotions sometimes. So
Wright couldn't sink any lower. His behavior in the courtroom will leave you stunned. Wright was arrested and charged with felony murder, armed robbery, conspiracy to commit armed robbery, and felony firearm possession. The family of the victim read a very emotional victim impact statement. But this is how serious Wright felt about their pain.
Sincerely hope that whatever it was you wanted so badly that you felt the need to murder my son was worth the next at least 52 years of your continued existence. You won't get the luxury of raising your child because you took mine away.
just look at him.
He was called
He's
to address the
smiling.
court. Wright shocked everyone.
I'll tell y'all I'll be home soon, or I'll be Keon. I love my family.
That's all you got to say.
Wright showed no remorse or empathy for his actions. His attitude in court shocked and angered the judge and the victim's family. The judge reserved some choice words for him.
I'm very tempted to just say I'm not going to accept this sentence agreement. We'll go to trial, and if you're convicted of felony murder, you'll go to prison for the rest of your life. That means you'll die there. That's what I'm tempted to do.
Wright was eventually sentenced to 25 to 52 years in prison for his role in the murder.
He told me to hit her. I didn't want to, but I didn't want him hitting me, so I hit her.
It's nothing compared to the explosive actions of 13-year-old Antonio Barbo and 14-year-old Nathan Pop during their trial.
She said that she's going to have to call Antonio's mom, and Antonio kept looking at me, and then he hit her in the head.
In September 2012, Antonio and Nathan conspired to and brutally murdered Antonio's great-grandmother, 76-year-old Barbara Olson. The kids bludgeoned her to death using a hammer and a hatchet, then stole her purse. What's even more chilling is that after committing this heinous crime, they used part of the stolen money to buy marijuana and pizza.
We were going to try to scare her to get money and then use force if needed.
When you say use force if needed, was there a discussion about what type of force you might use?
An attack, I guess to kill.
During the legal proceedings, Antonio Barbo changed his plea from
To kill. Huh?
not guilty by reason of mental illness or defect to no contest, reaching an agreement with the prosecution. However, he was very remorseful.
I know I don't show my emotions much, and I myself am not sure why. But that doesn't mean I don't.
Nathan Pop also had some things to let off his chest.
I just want to say that I'm truly sorry for everything that happened.
However, despite his plea and expressions of remorse, he and Nathan were sentenced to life imprisonment. They were both remorseful as they left the court. However, just when you thought you'd seen it all, another convict surpasses Antonio and Nathan's wild courtroom display.
As I approached, I got closer. I saw her really sniffing at a particular area. So I pulled her back, and when I looked, kind of second-guessed myself. I thought I saw a dead body, but I wasn't too sure because, it was missing some limbs.
Enter 18-year-old Matthew
It was missing some
Borges,
limbs.
who's facing a murder charge for the beheading of of 16-year-old Lee Valoria Paulino in December 2016. Borges and Paulino were students at Lawrence High School and had reportedly smoked marijuana together in November 2016, which was the last time Paulino was seen alive. Paulino's body was discovered by a dog walker near the Merrimack River 2 weeks after he went missing. The details of the scene were chilling. Listen as the dog walker explained what he saw.
As I approached, I got closer. I saw her really sniffing at a particular area. So I pulled her back, and when I looked, kind of second-guessed myself. I thought I saw a dead body, but I wasn't too sure because, was missing some limbs.
At first, Borges was not considered a suspect, but the tide of evidence began pointing unmistakably in his direction. During the trial, prosecutor Jay Gabito argued that there was an overwhelming amount of evidence incriminating Borges. The allegations against Borges were disturbing. It was suggested that he had stabbed Paulino multiple times before decapitating him. When the verdict was delivered...
Decapitating! You're killing somebody, then you have the nerve to decapitate them. These people are brave.
Borges displayed an eerie lack of emotion.
Damn.
The defendant, Matthew Borges, is guilty on the charge of first-degree murder.
Eventually, he was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole only after serving 30 years. However shocking Borges' reaction to his sentence was, how does it compare to the reaction of 16-year-old Dylan Schumacher, who was in Buffalo, New York courthouse?
I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me.
On charges of second-degree murder. In March 2013, Schumacher was babysitting his 18-year-old girlfriend's child while she went to work. He was inside a Springvale home shared with his parents. Tragically, that evening, Schumacher beat the 23-month-old Austin to death. Following this horrifying incident, Schumacher was arrested and charged with the murder of the toddler, along with child abuse charges. Schumacher claimed he didn't intend to harm the child or cause his death, stating that he was trying to get the child to stop crying.
At 16, you knew not to keep pounding your fist on that pillow with that little baby's head there. That little boy had to be terrified. Probably he had a hard time breathing, and then you repeatedly punched him so hard as to cause his death by bleeding on the brain.
If you thought Schumacher would be remorseful for his crimes, you're wrong. As Schumacher entered the courtroom for his sentencing, he couldn't even get settled behind the defense table before breaking into tears. That's right, Schumacher expressed how sorry he was for his actions.
I take back what was done. I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin.
However, it was all an act, and the judge wasn't fooled. The judge pointed out a recorded phone call between Schumacher and his mother.
The record will show that you admitted that on July 23rd, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me.
Despite his second attempt at an apology, Schumacher was handed the maximum punishment of 25 years to life in prison. However, this sentence was later modified to 18 years to life. However, while some may attribute Schumacher's reaction to juvenile delinquency, this is 18-year-old Shondell Jackson, who's facing charges of murder in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Jackson and his friend were out to rob when they crossed paths with 21-year-old Nathan Potter, a University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee college student, heading to his apartment. The friends approached Potter, demanding money, but Potter was only a student and had no money. When Jackson realized Potter had no cash to offer, he shot him, killing him. After the murder, Jackson fled to Mississippi, but was ultimately arrested, thanks to a tip from his uncle.
You don't have enough time to think about a whole lot of things now, because you just can't take nobody's life. That's just wrong.
As if killing someone at 18 was not outrageous enough, Jackson's
why are they covering his body?
More dramatic. During his trial,
Listen to me.
Jackson's
Body.
actions in the
His
courtroom
face.
drew attention. Here, Jackson is gesturing towards the victim's family, totally unremorseful about his actions. Jackson was quickly escorted out of the courtroom, but as he was leaving, Jackson flashed a disturbing smile toward the grieving family. Now, at his sentencing, Jackson's mother had an opportunity to address the court.
When I saw it on the news, I even cried. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine what that mother is going through. I never had a clue that my child had anything to do with it. My son is not a monster. He is not a monster.
When Jackson was given the opportunity to speak, Jackson surprised everyone.
I apologize for my behaviors. Please don't take my life from me.
That's right. In a last-ditch attempt to save himself, Jackson pleaded for leniency and offered an apology for his actions. Now it is time for the judge to deliver his sentence.
The need to protect the community, which I also fear for with Mr. Jackson, and I am going to sentence Mr. Jackson to life imprisonment without possibility for extended supervision. I know that that is something that is reserved for the most serious of cases, and
Jackson was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But when Jackson heard that he would be spending the rest of his life in prison, he couldn't contain his emotions. Deputies had to intervene, restraining Jackson as his anger flared. Watch again as Jackson pushed this cop over. Fortunately, this cop was able to wrestle him to the ground, while this officer here unbuckled his pepper spray and put it to work. Amidst the chaos, a member of Jackson's family has a shocking remark for the Potter family. Eventually, Jackson was led out of the court to spend the rest of his life behind bars. But Nathan Potter's parents had a few things to say.
Our little girl was afraid. She was afraid that he was going to try and kill one of us.
I hope it, as he spends the rest of his life in jail.
Jackson's friend and accomplice pleaded guilty to acting as the lookout in the crime and received a 12-year sentence. Despite the terrible behavior of Shondell's family in court, the uncle who tipped off the police maintained his stance despite threats. However, this wasn't the only time a convicted kid freaked out during his sentencing.
Your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
She's not my granddaughter.
Take, for example, the case of 16-year-old Sierra Halseth and 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero.
Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders their own father?
Who are facing multiple charges, including murder with a deadly weapon, arson, robbery with a deadly weapon, conspiracy to conduct robbery, and multiple counts of fraudulent use of credit or debit cards at the Regional Justice Center in Las Vegas. The teenage couple murdered Sierra's father, 45-year-old
It's a couple.
Daniel
I thought they were siblings or something like that.
They stabbed him over 60 times and attempted to burn his body and house. Then, they took his debit card and fled to Salt Lake City, indulged themselves, and opened a YouTube channel where they callously shared information like this.
Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Wow! Don't put that on the camera.
The teenagers dated in 2020, but their parents did not approve of the relationship, forcing them to end it. On April 9th, 2021, Daniel's lifeless body was discovered in the garage of his Las Vegas home. The teenagers were subsequently apprehended in Salt Lake City. Throughout the court proceedings, the behavior of Sierra was starkly different from that of Aaron. Aaron Guerrero seems to be emotionally breaking down. When he was allowed to speak, he had this to say.
I ask for forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace.
Meanwhile, Sierra Halseth appeared disinterested, bored, and detached from the gravity of the situation. She claimed that her father had physically and sexually abused her.
He locks me in place and starts pushing me and hitting me around.
Eventually, they were both found guilty by District Judge Chiara Jones.
55 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole up to 22 years of good service.
And ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution. For Sierra's grandmother, a lot has changed.
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
If you thought these reactions were shocking, you'd be amazed at this video, the top 5 biggest judge explosions of all time.
It's deep. It's deep. It's deep. It's really deep. But then, anyways, guys, it's your boy Bixie. I'm out.